No relief bill in sight for struggling Americans. The U.S. Senate seems stuck in limbo when it comes to whether they are going to approve more federal aid. And joining me now to discuss, Vermont independent senator and former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Good morning, Senator Sanders. I know you want to help people, working people. And the new expanded unemployment benefits are doing that. But do we run the risk that the more we help people from the government, which we know we need to do, and provide them more financial security and more certainty, it'll be harder for them to go back to work because businesses can't hire people back because they can't offer what unemployment can?
No, for a start, Stephanie, what we have to do are two things. First of all, understand that right now we have tens of millions of people in this country who are living in desperation. They have lost their jobs. They are struggling literally to put food on the table. They're worried about being evicted, losing their homes. What the government has got to do is to say to those people, you know what? We're in this together. We're going to pass another major piece of legislation to make sure that you get through this crisis with dignity and security. Number two, what we have got to do is, in fact, reopen the economy. But what we have got to do is reopen it in a way that is safe. And the great scandal of this moment, Stephanie, in my view, is that we have a president who has not allowed the CDC to go forward and establish strong federal guidelines for 50 states in this country. So you're asking governors and mayors to make decisions rather than having a national policy based on science. We want to get people back to work. But workers are not going to go to work unless they feel safe on the job. Shoppers are not going to go into restaurants or into bars unless they feel safe as well. And that is what we've got to do right now.
Well, the CDC has now put their guidelines out, but is the issue that it's only guidelines and what we need is regulation? Because guidelines don't force companies to change their behavior. The big three automakers opened this week and they changed a lot of their procedures, but they did it by choice. We know the meat packers aren't doing that. So is it the government's responsibility to do more than guidelines?
Absolutely. Look, one of the tragedies of this moment is that thousands of workers have given up their lives as they go to work in this pandemic. We're talking about workers, as you've indicated, in meat processing plants. We're talking about bus drivers. We're talking about nurses and doctors. And what the federal government should be doing is say, okay, if you're going to be opening up a factory, you're going to be opening up an office, here is the protocol that you have got to utilize. Now, what some people say, well, you know, rural Maine or rural Oregon or rural Vermont is different than New York City. It is. But we can have protocols for rural areas, protocols for large cities, protocols for factories based on science. That is what we need right now.
And who should be liable? Many businesses are now saying they want a liability shield. They're saying, I'm a small business. You know, if I risk getting sued by somebody, I'll go back out of business. But if those businesses don't provide a level of safety, then they're only going to be focused on their bottom line. And that won't be safe for workers or customers.
Right. So I think, you know, what we have got to be doing is understand that certainly in my state, and I suspect states all over this country, small business is the backbone of our economy. And we have got to protect small business. We've got to give them the protection they need. And by the way, one of the issues that must be taken up by Congress, and Congress must pass a new corona bill to protect workers, to protect small businesses, must be the understanding that the last bill, the CARES bill, did not provide the flexibility that small businesses need. For example, it said, we will cover your workers for 8 weeks if you hire them now. Well, you know what? If no one's coming into my shop, I don't need workers right now. I'll need that help in the future. So there is a lot of work that has to be done in providing more flexibility so that small businesses in Vermont and around the country can reopen with the financial support that they need.
But is the answer, let's move to the next bill and provide more support? Or is it provide more support and have more oversight over the $2 trillion that has already been allotted? Think about that small business loan program, PPP. We still have absolutely no idea the loan IDs, the tax IDs of anyone who received those loans. Is there enough oversight for the $2 trillion that's already been given?
Look, Stephanie, it is not either or. It is all of the above. You're absolutely right. I think nobody would deny that the implementation process has been a disaster. People who need the money have not been able to get the money because they don't have connections to banks. They don't have 14 accountants on their staff. Small businesses, minority businesses have not been well served. On the other hand, there have been businesses who have gotten the money who should not have gotten the money. Your point is well taken. We don't know where the money is going, et cetera, et cetera. We need implementation. We need to understand where those trillions of dollars have gone. But in addition, to me, it is an outrage. It really is a moral outrage that we have a president of the United States who says, well, we don't have to extend unemployment anymore. We don't really need a new piece of major legislation. Let us be clear that all across this country, in a way that we have not seen since the Great Depression, families are going hungry. Families are facing eviction. Families are afraid to lose their jobs. Small business people, moms and dads who have worked their entire lives to create a small business are going to lose those businesses unless the government acts. That's not just me talking. That's what the chairman of the Federal Reserve is saying. So we've got to do a lot of things. It's not either or. We need federal policy to reopen the country safely. We have to protect working people on the jobs. But we also need new legislation to prevent people in America from going hungry or losing their jobs or losing their homes.
Like what specifically for small business? Because in the last 2 days, we've seen some of the biggest retailers out there, Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, Walmart, crush it in terms of earnings. They've been able to hire hundreds of thousands of people. Their e-commerce business is booming, and small businesses are shutting down for good every single day. Many small businesses that sell the same identical products as those big box stores that were deemed essential. So what needs to change legislatively to protect that, what you call, and so many others, the heartbeat of our economy? Because it's not working right now.
It surely is not. And Stephanie, let us be clear that if present trends continue and we don't provide the support that Main Street and small businesses need, you're going to end up with an economy in which the big are going to get much, much bigger, much more powerful. People are not going to have the option of going to a small business downtown, and Amazon will be their only option. And I think we have to keep that in mind. This will be terribly destructive for small communities all across America, including my own state of Vermont. So number one, we have to keep our eye on that prize. Our goal is to protect not the Amazons, not the Googles, not the big guys, but the small businesses. Give them the flexibility that they need in federal policy to address their needs. The needs of a small restaurant are very, very different than the needs of a large corporation. And we have to pay attention to those needs in very specific ways.
Then is there, maybe I sound romantic, but is there an opportunity to create at a time like this a better, smarter, more inclusive capitalism? I remember last year you went to Bentonville, you went to Walmart's annual meeting, and you were arguing that they should put a member of their labor force on their board. And you didn't get very much traction. But fast forward a year, their labor force are their most essential workers. They're the reason those companies are doing so well. And we've seen companies like Walmart and Amazon extend hazard pay, give more benefits, provide more security. Is this the time legislatively where we should be doing more for those workers that you've been fighting for all these years?
Stephanie, if there is any silver lining in this horrible moment in American history, it is, I think, the belief that we take a deep breath and we ask ourselves, how did we get to where we are and where do we want to go when this pandemic is over? So, and I would focus on two issues. Number one, how does it happen that we have a healthcare system uniquely in the industrialized world which ties your healthcare to your job? So tens of millions of people have lost their jobs, and they also lose their health care. In my view, and I think the American people now understand, health care is not a job benefit, It is a human right that exists whether you're working, you're not working, you're old, you're young, you're rich, or you're poor. That's, first of all, major lesson. Healthcare cannot simply be an employee benefit. We need to move to Medicare for all. Second of all, you raised this issue. When we talk about the economy, it's not just giving workers the respect that they need, putting them on the boards of large corporations, which I absolutely believe, giving them dignity, giving them a say in the work that they do. It is also asking a very simple question we don't ask in Congress, we don't ask in the media terribly much. How does it happen? You remember, Stephanie, 2 months ago, we had Trump talking about the great economy, right? The great booming economy. Well, how great is an economy in which people suddenly go into desperation if they don't get a check for a week or two? Is that really a great economy? How does it happen that half of the workers in America are living paycheck to paycheck? Is that really the kind of economy that we need when 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America? So we need to take a deep breath, and we need to say, you know what? We need to provide economic security to all of the people in this country. You got a job, you're going to earn a living wage, not a starvation wage. You're an American, you're getting health care as a human right. You don't have to go $100,000 in debt in order to get a college education. You can live in dignity when you retire. Is that radical? You know what? I don't think so. It exists actually in many countries in the world already. But those are some of the questions we're going to have to ask.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.